It's always an honor and a privilege when someone makes time in their day to have a conversation with you, and even more so when they travel across the city, when they have a busy schedule and a lot to do, and I'm very excited. Kim Wong is here.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you.
Oh, and Callie.
We have 2 guests today.
Yeah.
We don't have a mic on Callie though. But.
No. It's okay, she's quiet.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Prepare for takeoff.
You're now listening to Stebner Show.
Thank you for coming. I've been wanting to record a conversation with you for a long time, and I'm very excited that you're here.
I don't know what we're going to talk about, but I'm excited and I'm ready.
I love to wing it. I love to just be on the fly and improvise. But one of the things that really drew me to inviting you to be on the show is that I love sports, I love calligraphy, and I love dogs. And so in the time that I've known you, I've discovered that we share those same qualities and interests. So I really wanted to get into your background in athletics, calligraphy, puppies, and anything else that you might reveal today.
Well, how did we meet?
So, great question. We met because I was playing on a soccer team for Warner Brothers. We used to play against all these teams, but there was always FC Silver Lake, and they were all fast, and we used to play the strollers. And we're just like all these like corporate kids, like, you know,
doing our Sunday best.
Exactly. And we met because I went to practice on a night that you had like an open call.
Yeah, so we have open training once a week, sometimes twice if we're lucky. Everyone's invited. Every Thursday, Westwood Recreation, 8 p.m. You're all invited. And yeah, that is how we met.
And what do you do exactly for the team?
I, along with Sam and Rich, are on the board of the soccer club. We're a certified nonprofit now, and we run about 7 teams. And the club has just been growing pretty quickly ever since we became like an official nonprofit. That was necessitated because of our growth. And yeah, we've been around for a really long time. We were founded in 2011. So we're over a decade old.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. We rebranded during COVID into Sunset FC because we wanted to capture the feeling of the entire city rather than just one neighborhood. So we actually didn't have very many members living in Silver Lake. And so, yeah, we just wanted to choose a name that really reflected the heritage of Los Angeles. And so the Sunset FC portion of it isn't actually about the sun setting, it's about Sunset Boulevard, because we felt that that better represented our whole club. The Sunset Boulevard runs from the ocean all the way through different pockets of neighborhood, different pockets of culture, through downtown, and ends up on the east side of LA. And so we wanted something that represented just the entire city rather than just one neighborhood in Los Angeles.
And how did you come to be part of this team?
That's a great question because I want to say, the only woman in a leadership role in the entire league.
How did you come to be part of Sunset FC?
So I went to Pepperdine with a bunch of the guys who were on the team, and then they used to invite me out to practice. So I would go practice with them, and they were only one team at the time, and sometimes, you know, this is like the early days of FC Silver Lake, practicing in parking lots and practicing where you pray that the lights are on at certain parks, and like nothing was like official. Like we were just playing pickup and trying to get practice in. And then for whatever reason, I think the club culture just started attracting more people, or the team culture, I guess, at the time. And then more and more people became interested in becoming a part of the team, and there were too many people for one team. And so a second team was created. That second team was originally coached by another gentleman, but I naturally got along great with the guys, had great chemistry. They really liked having me out there. Like they would ask for me to come to their games and run subs and just like be there to make sure that all the P's and Q's were clicking. And so it was very natural that I became the coach of that, what was the second team. And they're named after our sponsors, the Red Lions, which we're sponsored by Red Lion in Silver Lake.
Got it.
Yeah, and so that was kind of the birthplace of me becoming a coach. And then as we, became more official, more people wanted to join. And just naturally, more people wanted to join. So then it's like, okay, we're starting a third Sunday team. And then more people wanted to join. Okay, we're going to start a Friday team. And then more people wanted to join. So it's like, okay, we're going to start an over 30s team. And so as more and more people wanted to join, we just kept adding teams. And eventually, that led us to become a registered 501c3. And we started officially renting fields because there's a lot of liability insurance, et cetera, required to do that. And so that's how we became officially official, grew organically, kind of grew too fast organically, scaled back, then grew again. And then when COVID hit, obviously soccer was totally at a pause. But it was good for us from a leadership perspective because it gave us the ability to step back. And just reevaluate what are our goals with the club? What do we want to be doing moving forward? What do we want the future of our club to look like? How do we sustain it? Because we're just getting older and older. I think we started, doing this, getting really deep in this, like in our 20s. And now, we're all in our 30s. And so we have to continuously bring in younger talent and figure out how to recruit younger talent, how to retain younger talent. How do we get younger talent to be interested in doing some of the operational stuff with the club? Because the admin work is heavy. Like the admin burden is heavy because our organization is, well over 100 people at this point.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's well over 100. Yeah, it's well over 100 people. The administrative burden is massive.
Where does this team fall into? Is it a professional team or a semi-pro or?
It's all amateur.
Got it.
But we're definitely one of the most organized clubs. Like we have a website. We do all of our payments online. We have a merch shop.
I was really impressed, and that's why I actually went to try out. And it was like the last day before COVID.
Yeah. COVID shut everything down. But like I said, COVID was a blessing for us in a lot of ways because the way that the seasons flow, you're just going from one season into the next season. Like it's like season, then tryout cycle, then practice, and season starts again. And then it's like the holidays, so you're off, but you're still in a tryout cycle. And then the winter tournament starts right after the holidays, and then you go straight into tryouts again. So we were just in this, constant revolving door of soccer. So with COVID, we got to take a break and reevaluate what we were doing, how we were doing it, and what we wanted for the future. And so that's what led us to rebrand the club from FC Silver Lake to Sunset FC, which was a massive amount of effort. Massive amount of effort to do that. Redo a website. I mean, because everything is powered by volunteer activities. But we were able to put together a steering committee of, core players who have been with the club for a long time, and they were able to give their input every step of the way. So it wasn't just the board moving unilaterally. We had the buy-in of the core members, and they got to vote and voice their opinions on things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so things as small or big as our club colors, club name, redoing the website, look and feel, all of it. So it was a massive effort, and we wouldn't have been able to do that without COVID. And then the flip side of that, COVID was horrible because everyone came back and everyone just got injured all the time.
I've had a chance to be on the same field with you as you're coaching the team. Your practices are really well organized. Your knowledge is you have a great range. You're left-footed. And I'm actually very curious about your background in football, AKA soccer.
I will say it's been an interesting journey. it was so cut short. I blew my knee out in high school. So as my teammates were getting recruited and a lot of them played in college, that was kind of when I stopped playing because my knee just was not having it. But I grew up playing soccer. I think I started when I was 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like little, just playing bunch ball. I also grew up playing competitive softball, traveling softball as well.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was really boring. So soccer has always been my number one sport. But yeah, I mean, I was a really easy kid in a lot of ways, but in terms of like my commitment to sports and traveling and practice and multiple practices in a day because I was a multi-sport athlete, tournaments every weekend. I mean, the burden on my family, not just my parents, but my siblings as well, was huge. And I'm really thankful for it, even though I didn't go to college and play soccer, which is what I always thought I was gonna do. I mean, who would have thought it would have opened the door for running an amateur soccer club in LA? I mean, it's wild. I had a great coach growing up. And so I think a lot of my coaching knowledge just comes from observing him. And so I had years of club coaching, and I always remind my players that I am much nicer than my club coach ever was to me when I was like 12 years old, like this tiny little girl. I'm much nicer to them, even when I make them run sprints, even when I yell at them, even when I tell them how disappointing they are. I always tell them I'm much nicer to you than my club coach ever was to me. So yeah, that's my youth soccer background that ended like, really young, like 16. One thing I do want to talk about is like what it was like for me really early on with the club, like being the only female
Yes, let's get
coach
into that
in the
because
league.
that's the thing that I noticed when I was at that tryout practice was
It's just me.
there's
Yeah.
all these men
It's just me.
all listening to you.
Tiny, short person in the middle of the field. Yeah.
How do you resonate with that?
I think in the beginning it was really challenging because so many people act like you don't belong there. It's not your place to be in men's league in soccer. I definitely got it from the refs. So every game they would ask me, they would tell me, oh, you can't be on the sideline because it's only like coaches and players. Like, no, spectators are allowed to be on the sideline. So they just looked at me and assumed, since I was a woman, that I must just be someone's girlfriend or someone's friend. And like, that's why I'm on the sideline, and definitely was not recognized as a coach initially. And so, I mean, now it's been years and it's been fine, but initially it was rough. I think the league wasn't necessarily ready to accept me as a whole, like including the other teams, like the comments that were being made by other teams. That was all very real for like the first year. I want to say the first year, like the first 2 seasons. So it took the league a while to come around and accept me, but luckily I am not one who needs the acceptance and approval of others to feel like I belong. So I just powered through, and also luckily having such close friends in the club and having their support, they never questioned if I belonged. They never questioned, what my capabilities were, what my knowledge was. And so them believing in me made everybody else believe in me believing in me.
It took me one practice to believe in you because now we're here and we've been friends ever since. And I love your coaching style because you coach on the field. You're on the field with the players.
Oh, for sure.
And you're highly involved.
Oh, for sure. Yes. By name. The coaching is happening by name at practice, which is great. Well, something that is very gender stereotypical that I probably shouldn't say is that they say the difference between coaching men and women is like when you are giving feedback to a group of women coaching, the women all think that you're talking about them. And when you give coaching feedback to a group of men, they assume that you're not talking to them. Like, this is not about me. How could this be about me? So I give very direct coaching feedback by name to our players at practice, which is like, 40 players at practice. So you're going to hear it by name, what I think of you.
You don't pull punches either.
Oh,
and
sure don't. Sure do not. But I just really am passionate about, I don't think it's necessarily about the coaching. I'm really passionate about seeing people do well and perform to the standard that they can. And so sometimes it is super direct communication. Sometimes it is getting down on a guy just to lift him back up. And sometimes it is telling a guy it's okay when he makes a mistake, because it really just depends on the audience and the moment. And you've got to know what communication style makes sense for that player.
And in the power dynamics, when you're coaching men and competing against another man coach, and then you have the referees, like, how do you feel, like, what's your creative process in how to balance and exploit a victory, and also like the respect of your team and everybody else? Like, what are some of the things that you, looking back, what are some of the things that you remember most in that experience?
Oh, that's a tough question. Ooh. I think when I first started coaching, I did everything I could to prepare myself to be there. And like, we used to do a lot, or I used to do a lot more prep. When I used to run training, I would do a lot more prep beforehand, and I would write down like what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish at training. And then as you go from running your 10th training session to your 200th training session, to your 500th training session, it all starts to come naturally to you. But you have to put in the preparation and the work up front beforehand so that it can eventually just become second nature to you.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so I think that's really it. And then I also just think I was born with an inexplicable amount of confidence. I never feel like I don't belong.
How does that lead into your experience as being a coach?
Being prepared, I think in life, the more prepared you are, the more you're confident, like the more you have a foundation to build your confidence on. And if you study the game and you're prepared, then hopefully you walk into things just a little bit better. I didn't realize, how much public speaking would be involved with coaching either, but it's like, every practice I'm like giving a speech to 40 guys, and every game I'm giving a speech at the beginning or like at halftime or the end. And like, and it's, sports are like emotional in a different way. Mm-hmm. And having to address a group of people, and sometimes like a very emotional moment or that everyone is still processing, I mean, it pushes you personally to grow and to figure out what you're gonna say in the moment. I mean, you could be looking at guys who are just very upset or very angry or very disappointed, whatever it is. And at the end of the day, like, you're the coach. You've got to stand up there in front of them and say something. So if you're prepared, hopefully you can address any situation as it comes up.
For me, this experience, like being at the games, being at your practices, and just watching you work, to me, I feel like you're one of the most unique people that I know, because one, not everybody loves soccer in this country the way they love other sports. And number two, like, you're doing it at an amateur level where you said it was all volunteer, right? And then you stack up just not only the level of competition, but also the power dynamics of your personal experience being a woman in this league. And when you're on the field and you're competing in the games, tell me about the games and what are they like for you? What can someone experience if they go and see it?
Hopefully they see us stringing passes together, being awesome, scoring lots of goals, and working really hard. But I think they will hopefully see a group of players who diversity is one of our core tenets of the club, and I fully believe that we are a total picture of diversity. There's a lot of clubs that could be, you know, oh, we're all Ecuadorian, or we're all Armenian, or we're all this, and our club is, we're all everything, and we like that about ourselves. So I've got, you know, 19-year-old, I've got, you know, 30-something-year-olds, and we're all together. So hopefully they see this group of guys and me who are committed and united by our passion for the game. And hopefully that comes through in the way that our team members communicate with each other. That comes through in the effort that everyone is putting forth. And that comes through on what looks like a unified game plan and a style of play that shines through everybody, and everybody's on the same page. And is it always like that? No, it's not always like that, you know. It's such an ebb and flow thing. And that's, you know, the beauty of soccer. It's such an ebb and flow thing. And they'll see all of that, and then they'll hear me yelling. For sure. For sure, I'm not a quiet coach.
And when you take away the whole power dynamics of gender, the whole power, and then the whole struggle of the competition itself, when it comes to the game itself, what is your favorite part of soccer?
I think my favorite part of the game is not even about the game. I think it's that it's just brought so many people like you into my life that are, you know, some of my closest friends. We've totally created a community with our club. Like, we do social things, like we have a sponsor bar, like we do activities. We want our guys to, like, I love seeing our guys, like, they met at our club, and now one of them is getting married, and like we're having huge life events, and, you know, another guy in the club is like in their bridal party. Like that, like soccer, it's about soccer, but it's not about soccer. It's definitely about us pursuing the game that we love with people we really like or love. It goes so far beyond soccer, and like that's why I say it's about soccer entirely, and it's entirely not about soccer at all.
I love that statement, because at the end of the day, it's only a 90-minute game. After that, you go back to your life. And I know that...
No, we go to the bar and we drink.
Well, but that's also part of life. But when COVID hit, I know I went to one practice, COVID hit, but I feel like you and I got to know each other more after COVID started, because you have this real strong sense of community. The trivia games you would set up and play all on Zoom, like you did this great job of keeping everybody together while everybody was spread out in quarantine. And why is that so important to you?
I think LA can be a really lonely place. I think any city can be a lonely place, but the bigger the city, the more lonely it can be. I think adulthood in general can be lonely. You know, everyone's got a lot of stuff going on, everyone's busy, and I think especially for people who went to college like pre-COVID, who are on campus, you go from living in this environment where your friends are, you know, 5-minute walk, 2-minute walk next door. You live in with all your friends, and community is so readily accessible to you. And then you get thrown into the real world, and all of a sudden, it's not, your friends aren't around, and it's not as easy to find those connections. And I think creating a community with the soccer club is why we are able to attract a lot of people, and why the club grew as quickly as it did when it was like in the heavy growth phase, is because people were like, hey, like this is an organized place to play soccer, but it's also a great place to just be. Yes. Like, this is a great space to exist in. And we want it to be a great space to exist in. And we want to give, you know, some of our members, they just come and they play soccer with us, they train with us, and that's it. And that's totally fine. And some of our members are, you know, they're in it. You know, they're hanging out with us. They're coming to other people, you know, they're coming to other teams' games, which we really encourage. They're at all our social events. So yeah, we take members in any way that they want to engage with the club. We just want to be sure that we give them the opportunity to engage with us and to engage with all the other members. Like we do have goalkeeper training, which is really rare. So we have like goalkeeper coaches, goalkeeper training, and they are their own little weird island of goalkeeper weirdness.
I believe it, because I was actually playing goalkeeper at one of your practices like a month ago, and it's hard, especially
like
when you're
weirdest.
like on the turf and not grass. It's even harder, and luckily we're in the smaller goals, so it was like, it felt just right. But what's your take on how does it impact the socializing? How does that affect the actual performances on the field? Do you feel like it helps, like being close-knit on and off the field, or?
I mean, definitely gives us more chemistry. And, you know, if you get to know your teammates, you connect with them better off the field. And then you'll understand, hopefully, how to communicate more effectively with them on the field. When it's the heat of the moment and you don't have time to sit back and calculate what you want to say, if you have a good relationship with a guy and it comes off as, you know, aggressive, loud, mean, all these negative connotations, if it's coming from a buddy, it's probably going to be much better received than just coming from a teammate who's yelling at you.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's important for our teams to have good chemistry, play together, get to know each other on a personal level, get to know, you know, the board, get to know the coaches, and really make a home with us.
And I imagine that not only do you need like soccer knowledge, but you also need a lot of psychological insight when you are. Did you study psychology, or did you just have to learn as you went?
No, I feel sometimes I definitely do the most like player management on a one-to-one basis, which takes up a lot of time. But it is, I sometimes I call myself glorified HR. Like I am glorified HR. I am in the weeds, like with our one-to-one, you know, relationship management with our players. Like I am the one typically who is communicating with the players, whether it's on a one-to-one basis or just like via club-wide communication. So I definitely, that is where a lot of my time goes, is player communication, just one-to-one player management, which is good because sometimes when guys are not performing well in the field, you can kind of take a step back with them and be like, hey, like, what's up with you? What's up in life? How are things going? How's work? How's family? And get a sense of, you know, what's going on in their lives beyond the 2 hours I see them at training a week, because sometimes you can just tell your players are struggling and they need an extra layer of support.
For anybody out there wanting to join Sunset FC, how can they find you?
So we run all of our training sessions through one of our sponsors, Indalgo, and we post all our training sessions there. We also are out in Instagram world, and so you can see what's going on with the club on Instagram, and you can message us and get more information. But yeah, if you just go onto the Indalgo app and you find our club, Sunset FC, all of our training sessions that are open to the public are posted there, and it's just like $12 to join for 2 hours of training, which is, It's $12 to join for 2 hours of training, which is $6 an hour, and I think it's a great deal. So.
And what happens, like, can you just train and not even compete on, like, can you train with the team, or?
Yeah, so the best way to get on a team is to come to training consistently and tell us that you're really interested in joining a team. Because if we see someone consistently come to training, then we believe that they'll be committed to showing up to games, being communicative, and really wanting to be part of the club.
One of the things that I was really fascinated was with your ability to write in calligraphy, but not only do you just do it, but you also are teaching people online. Be like, hey, if you do this, you get this. It's like you're still coaching even online.
I can't turn it off. I would say I'm definitely an amateur brush calligrapher. I can do really well if I practice consistently, and I don't practice consistently. I only practice consistently when I have a project. I'm very like project motivated. But actually, my mom is the real calligrapher. She is like classically trained in calligraphy.
Wow.
Yeah, so she is amazing. and her handwriting is amazing. And she is just amazing. She was a pianist. I mean, she's so talented. And I'm not. So I really picked up calligraphy not because I was interested in it. I've always been super creative. My first hourly paid job was working at Joann Fabric.
Oh.
And I was the fabric cutting girl. I was 16. In high school. I don't know why they trusted me with scissors and measuring fabric. Once you cut it, it's done.
Give us this teenager.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you're 16. You can measure and cut fabric reliably. But I've always been super crafty, but I say I'm not creative at all because I'm not creative. I am great at, like I said, seeing other people do it and then just being able to apply it myself. And it does even apply to things with my hands, craft projects with my hands. So in high school, I would make boutonnieres, make corsages, just dabble in all creative, crafty things. I will say I'm very crafty, I'm not very creative. I'm very crafty, I'm not very artsy. I can knit, but I can't crochet. It's weird. And then with calligraphy, the backstory is actually that my best friend got married and she decided that she wanted to do this very specific seating chart that required brush calligraphy for all the names with the table numbers. And so I want to say 2 weeks before her wedding, she asked me if I could do it. And I didn't even know what brush calligraphy was. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Let me take a look. Sure, I can do it. So I just ordered some supplies, did some research, ordered some supplies, watched hours of YouTube videos, copied what they were doing, and made her brush calligraphy seating chart.
Oh, that's amazing. Are you still doing it often, or?
So now that weddings are back because COVID is subsiding, I will probably take one on.
There you go.
But I also just started being my own one-woman consulting firm.
That sounds exciting. Entrepreneurship is something very important, dear to my heart. Tell us about this new endeavor that you're doing.
I know, my one-woman consulting firm. So I actually just quit my job with nothing lined up in 2019, which shocked a lot of people because I just followed such a traditional path, when it comes to education and then pursuing higher education and then pursuing a career immediately after that. And so it was really shocking to everyone when one day I was just like, you know what, I don't really want to do this anymore. And maybe it wasn't, I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe it was a combination of, I don't want to do this anymore and I don't want to be here anymore. Even though I was working remote. I was working remote long before COVID days.
Oh.
Yeah, so I've been a remote worker long before COVID days, and everyone would tell me how jealous they were that I was working remotely. And then they all started working remotely during COVID and they all hated it so much. So I was like, let me give you some tips on how to make work from home life enjoyable, relaxing, setting some boundaries, and not eating your meals over your desk every day, and things that are just important, go outside. You need to leave your house. You cannot be inside for 3 days in a row.
So you're working for someone else, and then now you stepped out and you're doing your own thing.
Yeah, so I was working in, I would say, a pretty corporate environment, not as corporate as finance or legal or anything like that, but I would definitely say we were more of an old school corporation. I worked with a lot of middle-aged white men, and I felt like I was doing a lot of work lining their pockets. Didn't love that, and didn't love the nature of my work either. So I was there for 8 years, which is a long time for a millennial. I think the average millennial keeps a job for 2. And then I was just like, one day, I don't really, do I have to be here? Do I need this income to sustain my lifestyle? And I mean, I'm very blessed to say that I didn't. And so I was able to quit my job without a job lined up. And I thought maybe I'd go back to work in 6 months. And then then 6 months rolled around and I thought, I'm not ready to go back to work. Maybe I'll go back to work in another 6 months, and then it'll like be a year off. In that time, COVID hit, and I was like, yeah, I really don't really feel the need to go back to work at all. And so I didn't, and it was great. It was really great. Like, I can't even tell you how great it was. It was wonderful. And I thought I would lay in bed and watch Netflix, and that happened 0 times. I think I'm just inherently a busy person, and I like to be, I like to have a full life. I like to be doing other things. So it's like my life was still full with like soccer, and then I had a lot of time to do more admin work for the soccer side of things. And then I'm really passionate about rescuing special needs senior dogs.
Yes, tell me.
Callie.
Tell me, we have a special guest.
You come up? Come up. Good job. So I'm really passionate about rescuing senior needs dogs, senior special needs dogs that need a really elevated level of care. And I love getting educated about how to provide that care, just diet. I love training dogs. I love working with dogs. And so I spent a lot of time with Lily, my first dog, and she was blind. She was in congestive heart failure. She was incontinent. So like the needs were just like, and with her too, she's incontinent as well, and she's in kidney failure. So like we're just full of diapers and pee pads and things. Glamorous things that come with owning a dog, but she can see, she just can't hear. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time with Lily, and like Lily was just like the absolute love of my life. And so when they go into congestive heart failure, they don't really have that much time left. They say, 9 months to a year, 12 months to 18 months, depending on like the size of the dog. So I just, every day I wanted to make that day with Lily great, and I wanted to give her something to live for every day. So we just did so many things that she loved to do, and I was just so happy seeing how happy she was. So yeah, I took time off, a lot of time off, took care of my dog, and then I ended up taking care of our family dog, who was in a long, I call it his hospice care with cancer. So lots of dog things happening in my life, and I wouldn't change it. And they all kind of look like her.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like,
she looks like Lily.
Every time I see pictures of your dogs, they're all have
little,
a resemblance.
Yeah, they're all blonde Cocker Spaniel mixes.
Yes,
so.
that was my first dog, was a blonde Cocker Spaniel.
Oh.
So I'm very...
I was gonna say, you've got to just love her then.
Yes,
she probably looks...
my childhood has been roaming around for the last 59 minutes.
I know. I was like, she's got to look just like...
Oh my God.
Yeah. And she's a sweetheart. She has a lot of behavioral issues, but we're working on it.
But I admire your commitment to working with dogs. I admire your commitment to your ability to absorb knowledge and give. To me, I see you're very generous. You have a great heart, and you're constantly like tilting the world to make it a better place, whether it's with soccer or dogs or someone getting married. It's like, that to me is amazing, and I'm very grateful that you're here, because I like being part of that. I like taking the world away from like closer back to goodness. Because it was a little crazy.
Yeah. And I think that even applies in my professional life as well, because I took time off and I really thought about what I wanted to do next. Like, what does that look like? What am I going to be good at? What is going to fulfill me? What is going to be super beneficial for whoever I'm working with? And as you can probably tell, I'm not like a halfway kind of person.
No, you're not.
Yes.
You are the epitome of commitment.
Yeah, so when I commit, I am in. And I think that applies to like friendships. I think that applies to family. It applies to the soccer club. It applies to my career.
No, and I love that, because you're a really stand-up person, and I feel like to be accountable and present yourself with such power and commitment, like, that's rare these days. Thank
you. Yeah, so I really thought about professionally, what can I do? What do I want to do? And so when I was when I was going back to work. So I just started working again a week ago, officially. Well, that's a lie. I was doing some part-time consulting that I started last summer. But I officially started working for myself as like a one-woman consulting firm last week. And one thing I said to the CEO is I really want to work with a company that has a great culture, has great people, and I really want to work on a project that is really impactful, really meaningful, that's going to drive a ton of positive change for the company. And so those are things that were really important to me. And so we actually went through, I want to say like a 2-month engagement period where we kind of dated each other and figured out if it was going to be the right fit. And I do feel like it is, the right fit. I'm very optimistic about the outcome of the project. I know there's going to be major growing pains to get there, but I'm just very excited about this company and what they're going to do in the future.
And what kind of things, like, what do you consult on?
Oh, so I work in e-commerce, which is like online shopping.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's where I started my career. And I actually love the industry because people were like, oh, are you just tired of e-commerce? Like, is that why you're quitting your job? And I'm like, no, I love the industry. I think it's great. The industry is so fun. It's growing like crazy. I mean, as you know, like online shopping didn't even exist, like 20 years ago.
Yeah, when I was Gia's age, it was
right.
like, what?
It was like not a, yeah, it was like, oh, you like ordered something online and it was very novel. Right. Like, where is it? When is it going to come? In 5 weeks.
I know, the shipping and handling was so expensive.
E-commerce, online shopping, that's where I started my career. And I was actually really lucky. I kind of fell into this company. It was like cold emails, cold resume application when I was graduating from business school. And the experience turned out to be great because they were the original e-commerce provider in the entire industry.
Whoa.
Yeah, so they offered, web store, order management, payment text fraud. Like, there's so much that goes into, like, drop shipping, customer care, fulfillment, marketing services, agency, affiliate marketing, attribution. Like, there's just so much that goes into e-com. And now it's very piecemeal, and you basically like select vendors for each type of service, and everyone kind of specializes in one thing. But at the beginning, no one knew how to do it. And our company figured out how to do it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so that's kind of that's where I joined, and it gave me just such a wide range of knowledge, and it made me into a generalist of the industry. And so that was a great foundation for, basically, I feel like any part of e-commerce is accessible to me now in my career since I've had experience in all of those different facets, whereas most people are now at a company that only does one thing. So it's like I have years of knowing what all these different services do, how they interplay with each other, what are the best practices in each across the industry. So I think that has helped me open more doors.
Working for yourself is the best, but it's like, I'll stop working 40 hours a week for someone else, but 100 for myself, right? I feel entrepreneurship is great for the soul and great for the community because it creates a more interpersonal involvement with other people and other businesses.
Having like a ton of flexibility is important to me. Setting my own hours is important to me because at the end of the day, I am confident I'll get my work done.
Plus, it gives you more time with Callie.
Yeah, so we can, because like I'm in physical therapy 3 times a week. She's in physical therapy twice a week. I mean, we're just...
And it gives you more time for football.
Yeah, because when I was working full time, I would work all day and then I would go to soccer practice or I would go coach over 30s or whatever during the week. And then I would go back to my office at like 11 p.m. and like keep working. It was terrible.
Did you have any pets when you were little?
I had a dog named Max, and he was 85 pounds, and he was black, and people were really scared of him. But he was like the sweetest dog. We called him Grandpa Dog, because he was just so calm, so chill, so well behaved. Yeah, but people were terrified.
Oh my goodness.
I want to say like I'm not typically like your creative, like you're just super creative person in terms of like art, but I think soccer in itself is like a very creative game. And they say that studies have shown that professional soccer players, the creative side of their brain is insane. Like it's developed to like brilliant genius level because soccer is so creative, and they say that the nature of the game like unfolds, so they have to read and process and react and anticipate, and it builds the creative side of their brain so much.
Absolutely. It's like you have to anticipate, like see things before they happen, forget things that just happened that are bad, right? But still stay in tune and communicate verbally and non-verbally. If I may, before we wrap up, quick little rapid fire. Obviously, I don't have to ask you if you're a cat or a dog person.
Callie, I'm a dog person.
Horror movies?
I hate horror movies.
Romantic comedies?
Love romantic comedies.
Writing or reading?
Ooh, I write a lot for my job. And I'm good at it. But I also read quickly too. I probably prefer to read. I'm not creative. I don't like to create writing. I don't like to creatively write. I would never creatively write ever in my life. But writing a business proposal all day.
Nice.
I'm so boring. I'm boring.
Watching sports on TV or live?
Both. We're season ticket holders for the Warriors in Northern California. Yeah, I love going to Warriors games, but I also love hosting. So, because then more people can come to my house, more people can watch the game. And from like a strictly technical perspective, the vantage point of watching sports on TV is so much better.
Nice.
So you can read the game,
and people commentary. LAFC or LA Galaxy?
LAFC.
Yes! Favorite European football league?
Don't follow European football. Actually, don't really follow professional football at all.
Whoa.
Only follow, really just check in to see what the U.S. men's national team players are doing abroad, who's up and coming, what they're doing, how they're doing, injury status, how many minutes they're getting. Very interested in that. Not interested in a specific team and not interested in a specific league abroad.
Favorite player of all time?
Probably Julie Foudy.
Ooh, I do not know who that is. I'm gonna have to find out.
Oh my gosh, Julie Foudy.
Research.
She's like the captain of the '99 U.S. women's national team squad.
The World Cup.
They called her Loudy Foudy. I think that's why I like her, because she's like a center back. And she just yelled at everyone, organized, and I relate to that because I'm a center back. Left-footed, very important. Right-handed.
Left-footed.
Left-footed, right-handed.
Like Messi. He's right-handed, left-footed. I feel like that's like the perfect like symmetry of like the human body, right? It's like you get to use both sides of your whole body.
I wish it was, but physical therapy has taught me, and just like working out in general has totally shown me that I'm so imbalanced, even though I'm like left-footed and right-handed. Like my left leg is so much stronger than my right leg.
And the final one, sun or like solar or lunar eclipse? Which one's your favorite?
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably lunar. It's just cooler.
Yeah, and you can actually see with your eyes.
Yeah, I was like, it's cooler. Yeah, it's way cooler. Yeah. They're not like, don't stare at the lunar eclipse. They're like, go look at the lunar eclipse. Don't lose your vision staring at the solar eclipse. Hey.
Any final comments that you want to say on here of your experience being a soccer player, soccer coach, entrepreneurial woman in the 21st century? Doggy mom.
There was one thing I had to pick in my life that was like my number one passion. It would probably be dogs. Super passionate about dogs and how to take care of them, how to relate to them, how to live with them, how to train them. One thing that has nothing to do with any of this is I committed myself like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years, no, I don't even know. 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever. Maybe after a few years of coaching in the league, I committed myself to, if I ever hear anyone make like gender discriminatory statements or say anything racist, I will never not address it. So it doesn't have to be aggressive. It could just be like, hey, what did you mean by that?
Right.
Or acknowledge that I heard it, because it just used to happen to me all the time. And I have such a strong personality. If me and my strong personality, who is, you know, so bold and so direct, just lets things like that slide. The 98% of the population who is less, you know, less direct, less bold, less willing to address it, will never address it. So I just committed myself to that, I want to say, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. And so every time someone, you know, makes an inappropriate joke, makes a racist comment, makes some sort of gender discriminatory comment, which I, you know, really hear all the time. I heard one 2 weeks ago when I was coaching. I will address it. And maybe that means address it organizationally if I have to, but in the moment I will head on address it. Like, there is no room for me to look the other way. And I think for women, you're just taught to, I mean, it's like a safety thing as well for women. You're taught to smile and take it and let things roll off your back. And it is sometimes a self-preservation thing. And there's times where that's 100% appropriate because it is about your personal safety in that moment. But in contexts where it's not about that, it's so important for anyone, especially men, to address any treatment of women that is not okay. And so, yeah, I mean, you'd think that in the years, all the years I've been coaching and in the LA like city scene of coaching soccer, that it would be fine. But 2 weeks ago, I had a referee come at me like, who are you? What's your full name? What's your affiliation with the club? And I hadn't had that in years.
Whoa.
And so
in 2022.
It was like 2 weeks ago.
A fortnight ago.
So I asked him, I know, and that was one thing that people were so surprised about LA. They were like, whoa, you like get treated that way in LA? LA is so, you know, forward thinking and so accepting and so hippie and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get it all the time in LA, just all the time. Because sports are not a thing. Like when I started coaching, you know, all these like female coaches that are like being spotlit in their professional careers, which is great. That didn't exist when I started coaching. Like that wasn't even a possibility. It wasn't normalized at all. It's still not normalized, but you at least are seeing women on TV coaching men's, you know, sports. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, had a referee ask me what my full name was. He was like, what's your full name? Kimberly Michelle Wong? Like, what are you gonna write this down? Like, should I get you a pen? I don't know where you're going with this. He's like, what's your affiliation with the club? And I was like, that's where you're going with this. So I asked the other guys who were on the sideline, you know, did he ask you what your name was or like what
the other coaches
what your affiliation is with the team? And they were like, no, what are you talking about? And I was like, oh, okay, I figured it out. So that one got a phone call to the league. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's still very real, and that has nothing to do with being a creative person, but I just think for the sake of humanity, we should all commit to something like that.
But I feel it is creative because you have to wield, like you're making change, and it takes like real presence and like showing up. And like you said, like you're an extrovert, and sometimes people who are not extroverted, like if you speak up, like maybe it might help them, like even the playing field. But I feel you are an incredible human being. You're a warrior. I look up to you. You're my hero.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so glad that you've been able to be here today. I know you have to run, but I'm very grateful for your presence and your time and conversation today.
Thank you for having me. I feel like you are the pinnacle of creativity to me.
I tried.
I love seeing what you create you create it out of nothing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, so.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I just admire you so much. I feel like you are the opposite of me in a lot of ways, and it's so cool.
Well, I look forward to more adventures with you. And
yeah, come to training.
Yes.